It's interesting that you were bringing up Joe Rogan there, because he was someone that, you know, when he was starting and he was coming up, he was, you know, building that momentum. He was doing 4 or 5 podcasts a week or whatever, which is kind of a theme you look at in the album in terms of what you're saying about kind of hyperconsumption, our need as a society to constantly be consuming things and absorbing stuff. To what degree does that affect you as creators and as artists?
I don't know, it's an interesting, I guess I sort of themed the whole album around it, you know. It doesn't really affect me personally, other than the fact that, you know, in everyday life, we sort of live through this hyperconsumption of like, you know, comparing yourselves to everyone else and, you know, trying to sort of keep up with the rat race, I guess it affects in that way. I wouldn't say it personally affects me as an artist, other than
I suppose
striving for goals, I guess.
It kind of does, because of the whole, like always having to write, always having to release music and all that.
Yeah, keeping up.
It's on a loop, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
What you did, was it like 15 singles and 2 EPs before the album even came out?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
we definitely should have put an album out about 10 years ago. Like,
it wouldn't have been half as good though, really, would it? So,
nah, it's definitely, it feels like the right moment for us to be releasing an album. But I think people would have expected it sooner. We definitely weren't ready. Yeah.
I mean, lyrically, I can't imagine this record like 2 years ago.
Nah.
Like in terms of what it's discussing, it feels so present.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was probably the moment I sort of, it was about 2 years ago, I sort of like started thinking about that whole infinite pleasure concept. Yeah, and to be honest, from then onwards was when I really started, you know, concentrating and delving into lyrics a lot more. I must admit, I haven't usually been, you know, it's usually been last on my list after catchy riffs. Like, you know, going back like 5 years ago, I would never usually concentrate on lyrics that much. So I suppose you're right. You know, if we put an album out 3 years ago, it definitely wouldn't be as lyrically deep as it is now.
Do you think you would have still made an album like this, but it would have maybe just been like your second or third record?
I think that's what it feels like. It feels like
it really does.
Yeah, it feels like we're like a couple of records deep, but it's weirdly our debut album. Yeah, but I mean, like you say, we're like 15 singles deep, you know?
Yeah, in a way, we're already an album in.
Yeah. I mean, there's your...
Without labeling
we've done the greatest hits record, and now we're on to the second album.
The Greatest Hits Volume 2. That's the name of the album.
It is interesting to think about. Like, it's something we don't look at with artists these days, that when you come in with your debut album, the progression is much further along. Is that something you bear in mind quite a lot? Were you looking back at the kind of 15 singles and 2 EPs and deciding where to go from there?
Well, weirdly enough, like, as an artist, you know, I'm sure a lot of artists can compare to this, but everything you write or release or record, you always think that's the best thing you've ever done. You're always like, oh, right, okay, well, now we're going into deep waters now. Like, this is so much more mature, you know. And then you look back at it, like a year will pass, you'll look back and go, oh man, yeah, like, I'm not a fan of that anymore. We've like gotten to this point where, like, I personally feel I won't feel like that in a year's time, but you never know, you know. But like,
well, we've been sitting on this album for quite a while, and we all still really like it. So I think that's a testament to the material, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's almost what I was trying to say, but
yeah.
How long have you been sitting on it?
Quite a while. I mean, we did 2 sessions of recording. So the first session was in the summer of 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we started a lot of the material then, and we had some of the singles like Polaroid, Unnatural, Swim for Your Life were in, and then we just kept writing and it kept developing. So we've in some form we've probably had the album like ready to go since about then, and then it's just developed.
Yeah, we just kept adding, didn't we? Sometimes you got to know when to stop as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think we sort of hit the sweet spot and just called it, didn't we? When everything from this point onwards can go to album 2.
Yeah, literally.
How does that change about the way you feel about the songs that have been there the longest, when the kind of context they're surrounded by and what they're framed in is constantly shifting?
I suppose the older songs on the record are sort of our favourites. Like Medicine was the first track we recorded with our producer, Jolyon Thomas, who I know you've interviewed.
Yeah, good guy.
Yeah,
he's class, isn't he? The Goblin King. He's class.
Yeah, we call him the Goblin King. The King of Goblins.
Wait, why? Hold on.
I don't actually know, to be honest.
That, to be honest.
Yeah.
Probably because we're all goblins and he's our king.
And he's the king of us, yeah.
We're all a
probably
bunch of
talking about
nerds as well, to be honest. I think it has something to do with that. He's the biggest nerd of all, but in like a good
Don't
way.
slag him off.
In a good way, yeah, I was going to say.
I can't remember the question now. Oh yeah, medicine. So
That wasn't even the question. Medicine.
medicine? Question mark. Yeah. So basically, medicine was. It's technically, apart from the remake, the revamp of that dress, it's technically the oldest song. It's definitely the oldest song we've recorded on the record. It was the first song we did with Jolyon. Yeah, I guess from then there's been. Tom mentioned before there was a few singles that didn't make it, which were originally meant to be on the album, but I suppose we just cherry picked and we sort of just chose our favourites, to be honest, which ones were gonna make it or not. And then from then on, it was sort of like every new song. It was that thing I was saying before. Every new song you think's the best thing you've written.
Yeah.
So it was just like kick that off, get that on, kick that off, get that on.
Was like diversity and sound a factor in choosing the tracks for it? Because when you look at the album, it's very much in your soundscape, but you're kind of at both ends of it. You're pushing it as far as you can go in either direction in terms of the heaviness and the softer stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety on the album. It was on purpose, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say any two songs on the record sound the same, really. But the thing is, with some of the songs that we kicked off, that like, for example, Confession Box is quite similar to a track called Polaroid we did last year. And Take Your Time is in a very similar vein to Swim for Your Life, which are all songs that didn't make the record, but we consciously chose to leave them off to leave room for these newer songs which were in a similar vein. But we did want the record to be, well, like a variety of different, not different styles, but, you know, I don't like listening to an album where, like, you know, you got 10 tracks on a record and they all sound the same.
Yeah,
they're very similar.
All like rock heavy.
Yeah, we've been guilty of that in the past, I must admit, and that's just a hindsight thing. It's like, you know, I look back to our first EP and think, wow, we definitely used to rely on a formula, you know, like, I mean, that I'm guilty of that. Like, I'll hold my hands up. I used to rely on a formula and think, oh, this is working, let's do more of that. But now I sort of make a conscious decision when writing not to write something that was the same as the last.
Yeah.
As part of that, I know you said that the first EP is a little bit like rock heavy, rock centric. Is that just a kind of case of finding your sound though as well?
Yeah, like I say, you sort of like you strike on something that just works, and you all look at each other and you're like, oh man, we found our sound. But like, I've learned that like
that's happened like at least once a year though, hasn't it?
Yeah,
and we're always like, we've got it again, and it's like always.
there's almost no such thing as like having a sound, especially in our sort of world. Because I just feel like you can just rely on something far too much, and before you know it, you've wrote 20 songs which sound the same. So yeah, we definitely try to keep a variety on the record.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because how long have you been playing together now? 5?
Yeah, about 5 years.
Yeah, around that.
5 years. And you're saying, you know, you've been working with Jolyon, your producer, for almost 3 or 2 years.
A few years, but only like
3.
Like, obviously it isn't constant.
So we recorded Medicine in
end of 2018.
2018, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
18.
When you have both of those constants while you're making the record, you know, these things that have been in the band for a while, where do you kind of find a sense of chaos and unpredictability in the process to kind of give it that energy and that spark and that fire?
I suppose the sort of the mindset of trying to create something different to the last thing constantly keeps it interesting. Like, I feel comfortable if I've written a song which, you know, most bands would say, that's not us. I would feel comfortable showing the lads, and if, you know, I would say it's 50-50 of like the chance that they might say like, that's not going to work for this. I sort of like, they're really good at sort of like judging us. Like,
it's actually a hobby.
Yeah, it's just always good to get a second opinion, and I would never, lads, say now if I'm wrong, but I've never forced you to play anything you don't want to play. Do you know what I mean? There's never been a time. I'll try and persuade, you know, like I'll always try and be like, go on, it'll grow on you. But I've never went,
the whole album.
This is how it is. The whole album. Yeah.
All EPs and all singles.
I think in the studio, like, Jolyon really encouraged us to try lots of different things, definitely. I think he was very much, I think the one thing I remember was he was saying, don't think of it as singles. It's like, if the song is 7 minutes long and it feels this way and it feels right, just go with it. And I think that really freed us up to kind of find that spark and try new things.
Did you notice a big shift in the songwriting after that point?
I think so, yeah, definitely.
I think it definitely, in my mind, he made me feel comfortable with the fact that the sky's the limit when it comes to like layers, really. You know, we're a 3-piece, and like we constantly had this mindset of like, look, how are we going to perform this live? Like, we're going to have to keep it quite simple because, like, you know, we are going to have to recreate this. But Jolyon said that, you know, there's like 1% of your audience that are ever going to get to see you live. So like, why not try and make this record or the track or whatever like the best it can possibly be by using anything you want, you know, like don't limit yourself, which is what, like, so I guess that did open.
That's crazy to think, 1%.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It is mad.
Especially for you guys that are a band that have kind of become famed for your live shows over the last
Well, it kind of makes sense because we only have 100 fans and there's only ever one person at a gig.
Yeah. It's always our tour manager.
Oh yeah, I wasn't including the sound guy too.
Were there any, when you went into that recording process, were there any sides to the album that became embellished that you hadn't expected before you went in? Any sides that really grew throughout the process and became quite prominent?
I guess there's that spontaneousness to like to do whatever. I know I feel like broken record, I'm just repeating myself, but for example, it's like we went in to record Take Your Time, which is like, it was predominantly like a guitar based song, and I just started messing with this synth called Omnichord, and then that became like the sound of that track, you know, and it was totally unexpected.
It's got quite a poppy bouncy beat.
Yeah, exactly. Again, Jolyon added this sort of like drum machine almost, just like it's just one little note like throughout.
It's like a hi-hat replica. It's like
just stuff that we wouldn't usually.
But it's on the offbeat of the.
He brought things to the table that we wouldn't usually think of, and I guess that opens up a new realm for when you are writing new songs, or like a whole new realm of possibilities.
Is that song 4 on the Floor as well? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think all of ours are, to be fair.
Oh man, there's the formula back.
Every single one. I love it, me. It just adds a bit of edge, doesn't it?
Well, it gives that momentum. It keeps it driving.
Yeah.
It's the same with, I think one of the moments on the record that stands out to me for that as well as Sonder.
Yeah.
When you kind of have these 2 gentle acoustic tracks and you can punching in with that electric guitar again.
Oh yeah.
It's a mad one.
That was a sort of conscious decision with Anechoic Chamber Blues being so chilled. And then when that ends, we just wanted to like blow people's tits off. So that drum fill, just like
Hope it works.
But I think that track Sonder as well, I was going to say like that very much is like, that sums up the attitude that we had. Like Jolyon was very much like try lots of things out, try new things out. And we were kind of pushing each other to try different guitar tones and like different types of percussion and stuff. And I think that track in particular definitely sums up that whole like ethos that we tried to have.
Yeah. We'd almost like purposely go in the other direction just for a laugh. It was just the vibe in the studio at the time. We were all like bouncing off the walls when we were recording that one. We were like, should we just do it live? And we were like, yeah, no click, no. So then we just like...
Yeah, it was actually, other than the vocals and maybe like if there was any overdubs of guitars, that was all live, that one.
Yeah, it was very much like we would be like oh, let's make
all one take.
Let's make that guitar sound like a transformer sort of thing. So we just try all these like mad pedals out, and it was just that was the atmosphere in the studio. Like.
I'm actually out of tune at the end and everything.
Yeah, I think like there's this sort of like Queen Bohemian Rhapsody moment at the end. And like we were just pissed, and we were just like, should we just go and do it now live? We'd had a few cans and that, and then we went in and we were like, oh yeah, it's just part of the fact. We listened to it the next morning, we were like, oh my god, can we do that again? And Jolyon was like, nope.
Literally. It's like, in the middle of the word. It's like, oh god. Yeah, literally.
Did that song, Sonder, did that arrive off the back of kind of writing some of the more restrained songs on the album? Was it a direct response to that? Or did it kind of form separately?
No, not really. I think we just started jamming it in the rehearsal room. I think I just started as a jam, and to be honest, I don't think we ever intended it to be on the album. It just sort of came together really fast, leading up to the second album session. So then we had to make another decision to kick another track off.
But I think we'd always wanted to include some of the sort of more ballad kind of slow songs, because we'd always sort of toyed with that in the rehearsal room and being like, you know, if you're doing like a support slot or or whatever, you kind of have half an hour to play songs that people will either know or it's going to engage with. People are going to engage with it. So I think we always just kind of put those ones on the back burner. But we like doing a full album gave us the kind of scope to go, we want to include that side of what we do.
Yeah, we had a song a while ago called I've Become What I Am Not, which a lot of people love, and we had a lot of messages saying like, why hasn't that made the album? But that was just another one of those songs that we never found the chance to properly release as a single, because like you say, we were in a flow of just releasing single after single, and you always feel like pressured to make your singles like, you know, the short, snappy, punchy, you know, something that's gonna maybe make radio or whatever.
Minute and a half long.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
literally.
And as you know, as time has went on, that song's just been pushed aside, and to be honest, it's still a great song. I always forget about it until people mention it. But yeah, we definitely wanted a moment like that on the album, and I think Anechoic had been written, you know, quite recently to record in the album, so it made sense to put that one on.
So was I've become what I'm not more of a restrained one as well? One of the more kind of
it's almost
ones.
It was like in the middle,
grizzly bear feel to it. It was. To be honest, it was a really nice track. I just don't think it was quite finished. And then it's so you know, sometimes it's like trial and error with those things. You play a song until you play a song live. You don't know whether, and you maybe see video back or something, or how people responded or whatever. You don't really get a feel. You know, it's that second opinion thing again. Like you don't really know if a track is completely like finished. I mean, when do you stop either? You know, but yeah, that was definitely.
That's also kind of mad for you to say that, because there's so many tracks on this album that we haven't played live yet.
Yeah, actually,
like
that's uncanny large. Actually,
it's probably one of the first times where we're going to release songs that like no one's heard and we've never really played.
Yeah,
live.
I think
we've
only played Medicine and That Dress live. I know we obviously had a live stream, but that isn't a gig.
Yeah, you don't have the same reaction from the audience in such a direct, visceral way.
Yeah, to be honest, I was more talking about the slower ones, because it's just you know, you don't get that you don't get that reaction. Like, you know, you hear Glue and you just think, well, this is going to go down well live. You just know, don't you? Some you just know.
It's a very boat.
But yeah, things like I've Become What I Am Not, even Anechoic Chamber Blues, when would we ever get a chance to play that live unless we were playing in front of our own audience, not a support tour?
I feel like that could be a really special moment at a headline though.
Yeah. Like an encore moment or something. But yeah, I mean, we haven't played a lot of these tracks live because of the global pandemic, but so that's one main factor. Otherwise, we definitely would have.
Forgot about the pandemic.
That song, I've Become What I'm Not, it sounds like it might have covered similar kind of lyrical territory to Infinite Pleasure, maybe? Kind of skirting around similar themes, or?
I suppose in a way, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not Infinite Pleasure.
But
it's definitely in the same vein as Anechoic Chamber Blues. Just a pure guilt session, just a pure like self-reflection one.
A guilt session.
Yeah. You know, I would probably say 80% of the songs I write are in a sort of like chilled manner. Is that the right terminology?
I'd use the word melancholy.
Melancholy, nice.
More than chilled manner.
That chilled manor sounds like a weird haunted house.
That sounds like a hotel or something. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Sounds like
a really cold hotel.
Everyone's on acid or something in this huge hotel. The Chilled Manor.
Nice. Yeah.
That's an album name as well.
Yeah.
Are you in a different mental state when you write one of the Chilled Manor songs compared to when you write one of the kind of stomping heavy
Chilled Manor
genre?
Chilled.
We're running with that now.
Yeah.
No, to be honest,
sounds like a Spotify playlist.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm always in a sort of different mental state with everything I write, to be honest. It's like, it's weird because like I can feel a certain way, and songs that I write will only ever be sort of like from a third person ambiguous perspective of just like maybe put myself in other shoes. It's never really about how I feel in that moment. Very rare anyways. But I guess my sort of mental state does reflect what I write. I go through different phases of like, I've started writing songs in like drop C, like Queens of the Stone Age, quite heavy. And then I literally out of nowhere for a few months just start writing like acoustic songs. Yeah, it's all pretty random. I suppose it's like that for most artists, unless you really sit down and try and concentrate on a certain genre. But that's never been the way I've worked personally. In fact, it's usually the opposite that comes out.
It's interesting that you're saying there as well that you'll write from someone else's perspective, like you'll put yourself in someone else's shoes. What's fueling that? Are you consciously kind of finding a character that you find interesting and then writing from their point of view, or are you kind of uncovering who they are through the process of writing the song?
It's more ambiguous. It's more really maybe if I think or feel something, and then I'll sort of like create a world that's totally exaggerated around that, you know, rather than writing about myself. I sort of think, how would this situation be from a different perspective? How would it be? Just different situations, really. Just, yeah. It's never usually about myself. And also, I don't really like, as well, I consciously do that as well, because I never like sort of explaining myself. Do you know when people ask what a song is about and stuff? If that was something that was really personal to me, I think I'd find it quite hard to constantly explain that.
Yeah. How does your understanding of the world of a song change when the other guys in the band come in and bring their parts to it and kind of expand it out?
I mean, it brings it to life, you know. I'm not saying that every single song we've ever written has been me bringing it in. That would be a lie. We're just having fun, you know, and we'll, you know, some little spark, and then one of us will quickly pull our phone out to record it, and then that turns into a song. But like songs that I've brought in, yeah, it brings it to life. And to be honest, during the pandemic, when we haven't been able to, like, Tom's been on the opposite end of the country for most of it. I've really missed it, and I've almost didn't realize how much I needed that. I was talking to Tom about this last week. I didn't really realize how much I did need that, you know, that second opinion, that sort of like just to bounce off each other when it comes to writing. I've hit a wall with a lot of things recently. I go through different phases of having like mad writer's block, and then all of a sudden I'll just churn out like 20 songs in a week. Well, that's a massive over exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Maybe 20 songs in a year. I'm quite a slow writer.
Is there an event that triggers that sudden output? When you look back, do you see something that consciously puts you in that place?
I think it's definitely just not concentrating on it. Like if I try and, like, if I sit down, I'm, you know, when you've got too much time on your hands, which I mean most people have during this pandemic, you know, me personally, I'll be like, right, perfect time to do some writing. But as soon as I sit down to like forcefully write, it never works that way for me. So that usually when I take a step back, I just have all these ideas flowing.
It's funny what you're saying as well, because about, you know, realizing how much you miss just being in a room together and playing and kind of working through the songs, which it kind of ties into one of the themes of the record, which is this idea of connection. You know, you open the album on the line, "Are we all the same?" Has your relationship to that theme and the way that you're kind of thinking about it changed in the last kind of year with the pandemic, when that's something that's really been put at the forefront of everyone's mind?
It's, to be honest, it's almost just heightened that sort of whole concept of it, especially that track, Infinite Pleasure. It sort of made me realize that when everything stops, when the world literally is at a halt, everything shuts, you know, everyone that feels or thinks they're important suddenly doesn't have that sort of connection anymore. Then, you know, they're not, you know, like people who go out and think they're class, they're like spending all this money, but, you know, they're like weekend rock stars, as they say. But like, what do people have when it all comes down to it, and all our canvases have been painted blank? Like, we are all the same, you know. We're constantly sort of comparing and portraying ourselves. Well, not everyone, but, you know, people portray themselves to be better than others or whatever. And when it all comes down to it, and we've all had everything taken away from us, we are all the same, and we all have the same basic human instincts.
Is this something you'll kind of have conversations about as a group? Will you talk about what you're discussing on the album in that way and kind of explore it in conversation as well?
We definitely like talk about the lyrics. I think we definitely, like, I personally like to ask Adam what it is that he's wanting to sort of portray and like discuss, and we kind of have like discussions, but I don't think it's like a committee or anything. It's very much just kind of trying to understand it's like trying to understand where he's coming from and what he's trying to say, just so that we know.
Do you need to have that basis before you write a part that complements it? Do you need to kind of understand the song to fully kind of lock into gear in that way? Not
in a musical sense, more just in a sort of, it's nice to know what kind of emotion is being portrayed or what it's about. It's just kind of nice to know whether we're all on the same page. I guess. I don't know. I've never actually really thought about it.
Yeah, I'm not really into lyrics
See, I
that
am.
much. I listen to melody a lot more. I appreciate lyrics, obviously, and I enjoy them if I delve in, but I usually just have a listen.
I think that's actually just helped me answer what I was trying to say. Of like, for me to connect with a song, I like to know what the lyrics are about, and I like to sort of know what I'm supposed to be feeling. Maybe I'm not sure, but I'm definitely, I get pulled into a song through the lyrics.
Yeah, I feel like if I've written a decent set of lyrics, I always sort of force them upon you as well. I'm like, what do you think of this? And if you just don't like it, then you just get
Do the songs ever surprise you, Tom? Will you feel a certain way and then you'll have a conversation about what it's about and that feeling maybe changes for you?
I guess it's kind of weird because obviously we're all really close. So sometimes like Adam will put a song forward. I'll kind of see something in those lyrics or read into those lyrics because I know him, and then he hasn't even realized that he's done that. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but there's definitely been a few times where I've been like, oh, that's definitely because of this. And I know that he's felt this way over the past month or so, or something's happened in his life that's definitely like unconsciously shaped the way he's written something. But I guess I only know that because I'm really close to him. So it is quite interesting.
I was just saying before about how, I write from a third person perspective and other people's shoes and all this. I guess that's me just being quite modest about it as well. Because like, I think when I write, there is something inside that, I'm feeling that way for a reason. And that to be honest, I often look back on my lyrics and I realize what that song's about after,
Yeah.
It's just, it's definitely subconscious.
Yeah. Definitely your own like sort of experiences leak into the songs, I would say.
Yeah,
it's also like it's conversations that we have. Like we've talked about this before, but like we talked about the idea of Sonder and what that is.
Yeah, that was a really fun one.
Yeah, and then it just leaks into the writing process. And then there's other songs where we'll have a discussion, or like we'll discuss a concept, and then that suddenly sort of pops up in the song.
Sonder's an interesting one as well because it gets quite psychedelic at one point. You have that breakdown where it completely shifts gears. Was that something that was fueled by those conversations and what the topic of the song was about? Or is that something that just organically came in the process of
quite organic, to be honest,
coming together?
Yeah.
It's quite a rowdy song, and we were just sending it. We were just jamming and just sending it. And all of a sudden it went halftime and we were just like, oh yeah. But no, lyrically, that was a really fun one. When we were on our first European tour, we were like driving through like
Nijmegen or Utrecht.
Nijmegen? Yeah, we were driving through like the countryside in the Netherlands. And, you drive past some of these houses and I'm telling you now, like, there's all of a sudden there's like, you come into like a street and every single house has been like built differently, almost like The Sims. Like every single house is just like totally different. And then we were all just like, hold on a second. Someone lives there. Like someone literally has a life there. And like they've got a family and they're probably in one of them rooms right now. Like what is going on? Like when I'm in Wallsend, when I'm literally like in Newcastle,
he has like his own ambitions and emotions and like experiences.
Yeah, it's like, you just totally forget there's a world outside of your own, like
yeah.
Even in the simplest ways.
That's what Sonder means, doesn't it?
Like, yeah, our tour manager was just like, I'm sondering me tits off. And I was like, I've never heard that word before. What does it mean? So I Googled it and I was like, oh my God, here comes a song.
Is it so once you have that word, it's an easy jumping off point, or is it more you're jumping off from the experience?
It was both. We were obviously experiencing that, but then to find out, what that meant, it's almost like that word itself is just a whole world of possibilities, lyrically, anyways.
With Nothing Lasts Forever as well, was that a similar thing? Was that phrase the jumping off point for it? Because it feels like such an evocative thing to kind of center a song around. It's
a sort of that theme that runs through the album of, the fickleness of the human race, I guess.
That's so heavy.
Yeah, nothing does last.
That's Monday morning.
Nothing does last forever. Like, and when you actually think about that as a sentence, it's like literally nothing lasts forever. Like, it's such a simple sentence, but everything good and everything bad in your life, and even your life, that will not last. It's just So yeah, that's pretty deep actually, isn't it?
Other than COVID,
Yeah.
that's lasting forever.
Feels like it.
Literally.
You know, you'll see, we were talking there with Sonder where you see that person, suddenly this revelation is triggered and you go down that thought pattern. What would trigger a thought pattern for something like Nothing Lasts Forever, and kind of thinking about that idea of how finite everything is, mortality and everything? What puts you down that path?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, that song, it doesn't really go down. I mean, it sounds like the way I've just described it makes it sound like really deep, like sort of like a bit like the infinite pleasure concept. I suppose it links in that way, but the song itself is actually, it's almost like a conversation between two in a relationship. And it's almost like the journey of the song is like, it's basically, oh shit, I fucked it. And then it's like, oh no, now they fucked it. That's literally it. It's just like a journey of like a back and forth of, and there's a moment in the second verse where it says they whisper, nothing lasts forever. So that was literally where that concept came from. It wasn't anything too deep.
It's got the Vivienne Westwood line on it as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
And the bag.
Yeah.
There, one or something. First.
Oh yeah. She keeps her cats in a quilted Vivienne Westwood and pulls them out when you least expect it. That was a sort of meant to be like the cat's out of the bag. But when everyone I've shown, when I've asked, have they realised that's what that means? They were like, no. And I was like, oh shit.
If I'm actually honest, I never noticed that.
Yeah, well there we go. Maybe I should start.
And I'm literally in the band. I had no idea.
No, it's meant to be like the cat's out the bag. She like.
That's a decent lyric. That
Something's
actually,
been
well
revealed when you least expect it. So yeah,
that's meant that well done.
that's what that means, Jack.
Nice.
There you have it.
Those references always jumped out to me when I listened to, like, you've got the Vivienne Westwood one there, there's a line about napalm in the morning, and I think Netflix is referenced as well. Are these conscious things you put into the song because you like the way they sound and the connotations of them, or do they just kind of come out through the process?
It came out in the process, and then I have a sort of thinking period of whether it's right and a bit maybe. Like I had a big think process about the there's a lyric about Brexit.
Yeah.
There's a lyric about Netflix in Frank Sinatra, and I just thought, in the end, I guess this.
It's an odd day and age now, isn't it?
This it feels relevant. It's not like I'm delving into the subject. It's just at the time of writing that, Brexit was everywhere, and that track Frank Sinatra is about having to bow down to the higher powers of, no matter what we moan about politically, or no matter what we don't like, or like it is the way it is, and we have to live through it. They'll always win. You know what I mean? They will always win. Yeah, that lyric, Brexit for breakfast, we eat what they tell us to bring order to the chaos, I think.
There won't be a sequel to Binge Watch on Netflix.
Yeah.
And that's the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't there also a lyric in that one about Game of Thrones or something like that?
Well, it was...
Pretty sure.
Yeah, the second verse is about...
It's
what is it again?
The Uprising is cancelled. That lyric.
Oh, yeah. Your favourite character got capital punishment. The Uprising is cancelled. I guess that was about my stock and my experience.
Your mate Sean Bean.
Yeah, literally.
What happened? You had a run-in with him, didn't you?
Yeah, it was weird that. We were
Running sounds like we had a fight with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he pulled his sword out on me and we were like, whoa.
I beheaded him. Yeah, we were loading into a venue in Liverpool in like 2016 maybe, and he was walked past.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing in Liverpool.
And we were just like, oh, yeah, he lives there.
Oh, does he? He's from Sheffield.
Yeah, apparently lives there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
our mate we were with was. It's like, is that him? We were just like, let's get a photo, and he was all right.
He didn't say a word.
Yeah. You missed every time.
I missed all of it though. I missed the entire experience because we pulled up outside the venue and I went, I'll go inside and check where we can park. And then when I came back, they were all like, we've just met Sean Bean. And I was like, great. Perfect.
Do you know what? In hindsight, I think you would have really respected if I went, Boromir.
Yeah, literally.
And then you would have just looked directly into my eyes and went, OG.
OG.
Wasn't he 006 as well though?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Was he acting?
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but
No way.
He's in
I'm going to have a look at that. Yeah. I never knew that. 1 second. Sean Bean, Golden Eye. I do. I want to have a look how old he is.
No,
God, it is.
I know he was a Bond baddie.
There he is.
There he is.
Whoa.
He looks a bit like a CGI character in
literally.
that photo.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Like he's been de-aged, like for a Star Wars movie or something.
Did you,
I hate
did
when they
you
do
see
that.
The Irishman?
Yeah.
Did you see when they did CGI? Was it Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro? It looked horrific. Did that
I
give them
found it
different
really-
I haven't
eyes? It was
watched
weird.
that film yet.
I found it really jarring because it was like Robert De Niro like stepping off the back of a truck, and they were like, "Hey, young guy, come over here." And it was like, he was supposed to be like 30, but he looked about 100.
Yeah, they've like slightly
Ridiculous,
airbrushed
isn't it?
his face and then just give him purple eyes or something.
There's like a 20-year-old bloke like holding his back, trying to step down the steps. It's like,
Alright, buddy, lad.
The thing that's weird about that as well is that it doesn't look like young Robert De Niro. It looks like
No,
they've
it
taken
doesn't.
Robert De Niro now and tried to make him look, it's bizarre.
It literally looks like
Yeah.
they tried to make Robert De Niro in a test tube.
a petri dish. It's like a little.
Yeah.
It's funny, we were speaking like a few moments back about how the references come out like very organically in the process to a certain extent, which is something that we've come back to a few times. That side to the process where you can just allow things to happen, does that make reworking something like that dress quite easy? Because you can kind of just put it into your process and let it organically turn into a bigger version of itself?
Yeah, it was only ever going to be that way for me because, we were so close to dropping the song. We've been playing it for years. And there was a few people on our team who had suggested that we maybe rework it because it was a demo. It never got released as a single. It never went to radio. It never, all that. So I guess for me, it was make or break. It was like, if we can make this better naturally by not forcing it, we'll do it. But if it does sound forced, we'll not do it. And I think it does sound a lot like the original. I think a lot of people were saying it was quite different, but it basically just has a bit more swag to it. I think it's a bit more like in a Black Keys-esque vein rather than sort of it's more rocky than it is indie now.
Yeah, I get that.
When you
Yeah.
compare them.
I think it's got a better structure. It's like the structure's.
I prefer it in every way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's just got we're a band full of riffs, and we just put a few more riffs in, and breakdowny bits, and yeah, and we, to be honest, it was the moment for me was we were just playing along and seeing what we could do with it, and then I sort of just came up with that new lyric and melody in the chorus because it used to repeat itself a lot, but now it's got that show me the door bit, and we all looked at each other and we were like, okay, this is going somewhere. So it was completely organic, and yeah, it transformed it in the best way because it's really subtle. I think it's not that different. It just sounds better.
How was the response to it? How did it go
it was a
down?
mix.
quite
Yeah,
mixed.
it was a.
It was very
Do you know
mixed.
what?
The thing is, I never considered it. I when we were recording it, I was just like, this sounds so much better.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really understand how anyone is gonna who likes the song already is gonna disagree with what
A
we've
lot
done.
did.
But there's always people that will, which we found out.
Yeah, the whole sort of like, that was the one moment in the album where we were like, give the people what they want. They want a souped up version of that dress. Turns out, fucking nobody wanted that. No, I'm joking. It's yeah, to be honest, it's that thing, isn't it, where it's like you can have 90% good feedback, and it's always that 10% that'll get you, that you concentrate on, and in your own mind you turn that into 90%. Honestly, the reaction was amazing, and the only thing this time was people had something else to compare it to. So we had that backlash, that very small backlash of people who preferred the original, which is absolutely fine.
Each to their own.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, that version's still up if people want to listen to it, but they will understand when the album comes out. They will completely understand why we had to do that, because the demo would not fit in the album sonically. Yeah, the new version sounds like the rest of the album, whereas the demo sounds like it was 5 years ago. You know what I mean? We've just matured a bit, and
also, it's 100% us that has to perform it every night. So,
well, I mean, we've been playing it like that for a while. It's people get, it's that thing as well. It's like we can get sent a mix. Let's say Jolyon sends us a mix. First time I heard the Take Your Time mix, I went, whoa, no thanks, delete, start again. And then I listened to it a few more times, and I was just like, yeah, actually, you just need your ears to adjust, And I'm sure a lot of people that were, not digging that dress when it came out a few weeks ago, I'm sure a lot of them will like it now, but they wouldn't think to tweet with that, would they? They would just go with their initial reaction.
Do you think you would have had the same response from those people had you just put it out in the context of the record itself and not dropped it as a single prior to it?
Yeah, I think, it would be on people's radar to probably listen to that first and be like, what have they done here? Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we got that out of the way because, like I say, 90% of people liked it and prefer it. In fact, I think someone tagged us in something with like a poll being like, which one do you prefer? And 100% voted for the new one. So that was like, that gave me a bit more perspective because when you're in the moment concentrating on the negativity and wondering, have we done the right thing? It's nice to see, people naturally voting for the new one.
Also, I guess we've never actually really been subjected to that much negativity at this point.
Yeah, that was, I thought that was nice. That was like, it almost felt like we'd sort of like passed through a barrier of like, you sort of think to yourself, okay, maybe we've sort of reached a new height, like maybe it's time, because there's a lot of, when you're in a band, there's a lot of, you've got a very, like a circle, you're like an enclosed fan base who are constantly, they're your fans, they're going to love it. So when you start breaking through that wall and people start hearing it who don't necessarily like it or like you as a band, that's also nice to see because you're reaching new
audiences.
A new audience.
Once you've got the trolls coming after you.
We have had a lot of them as well.
Yeah, but we have the Goblin King.
Assholes.
We have the Goblin King to slay the trolls.
Jolyon.
So for the album sessions, were they both at Big Jelly?
Other than Medicine.
Yeah, the only track that wasn't recorded there was Medicine. That was at Livingston in London. Yeah, so obviously that was recorded as a single, and then we did Unnatural in the same way. But then when we started the album sessions, we wanted to go somewhere that was like residential, where we could like record for as long as we want and then just go to bed. Like literally
really immerse ourselves in doing that.
Yeah. So in Livingston didn't have that, didn't have accommodation, I don't think.
I didn't.
So
no.
So yeah.
Livingston's mad. It's like a tiny studio on a sort of, it's opposite an Iceland shop. And literally when you go in, like on the walls, like Beyonce's been there. But it's literally next door to like a Weatherspoons. It's like next door to Weatherspoons in Iceland, and there's just a studio that's had like
Weatherspoons. Where was that?
Yeah,
we went.
Oh, the big one. That's ages away. That man. That's like a 20-minute walk. Well, I thought you meant like opposite.
Wait, it's up the road, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Let's not get into the logistics of the Weatherspoons.
Let's not get pedantic about where the Weatherspoons is. It was near.
Whoa.
I would fucking love a Spoon's large breakfast right now. Have to be a large break though.
That'd be nice.
Nothing else.
I mean, I don't like giving him my money, but he can take it for all I care.
Yeah, that would be good. Like,
did it feel different being in a residential?
Oh yeah, definitely. It was exciting because it felt like we were really like living it. We were like really immersed in it. We literally would like get out of our little bunk beds and like go down there was a spiral staircase that would lead into the kitchen, and we'd make some breakfast, and then we'd just go straight in, and we'd spend all day just really digging in and getting into everything. It was. You
basically just walk up in the studio, didn't you? And it was,
which was amazing.
It was just a nice environment to be in.
It was amazing, but also that there gets a point where you need to have some outside time because it does get really intense.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually went out the first like week or something.
Well, maybe
like
that's just me. I like to.
I went mental though. That's what I mean. I literally had to leave.
Yeah. It's just
it gives you perspective if you kind of walk outside, have a coffee, and then come back.
Yeah.
But I did really like the sort of process of like living in the studio. It definitely added to the vibe of the album that we could just sort of pick our guitars up on a morning and just like crack straight on.
How long were the days?
Oh, some of them were very long.
Too long, baby.
Some of them would start at like 10 o'clock and we'd go to like 1 a.m. And then other ones, when we weren't necessarily like making big breakthroughs, probably 11 till 9. They were pretty long days though.
I think Jack spent about 3 days on a drum fill once. That was definitely a moment where we needed to get some fresh air.
Yeah, it was the one in Nothing Lasts Forever. The big one.
Yeah, there's like a drum fill that sort of repeats. And we wanted to do it in a way where, you didn't know when the drum fill was going to stop. And believe me, it just didn't stop. And we had to be like, Jack, it's been 3 days now.
It wasn't 3 days. It was realistically about 2.5 hours, which
Come on, we spent a full day
is
on
too
that,
long.
Jack. We literally
didn't.
Jolyon had to literally take us for a drive because we went. Yeah, like take us round the block. Get some perspective.
Oh, and we actually went into a wake.
We didn't mean to do this.
Into a wake accidentally on that day.
Jolyon was like, right, lads, I'll drive you somewhere, have a pint, and just like not think about this drum fill for like an hour.
And watch it all blow over.
And we got there, and we sat down, and we were like, bit of a weird vibe in here, innit? And then we realised we'd walked into a wake, and like everyone was like crying and that into their pints, and I was just like, what's going on?
It was a hard one to drink. Like I was just like,
it's probably the worst pint.
It was that moment when we all looked around and we're like, why is everyone in black suits? Like, and why is there a big like PowerPoint of this person? And then there's just like family photos going across, and then we were like, oh no.
All right.
Oh,
God,
it was really awkward.
That wasn't great.
I think that just sums up us as a band, really. I think
Either it's a cult or it's a wake. You've kind of got one or two options there. Wake's probably the better one to go for.
possibly.
Yeah.
We stayed for far too long anyways. We realised it was a wake within 2 minutes, and we stayed for like an hour.
You had another few pints. You're allowed to buy around.
Yeah, there's the album budget gone. Some pints.
Yeah, literally.
Is there a slide in Big Jelly as well? That I hear.
There is.
Yeah, and it leads directly into a wall.
It's incredible though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's basically like, because the control room is like hover. It doesn't hover, but
It's like suspended above the live room.
Imagine.
suspended. Yeah, it's like it's basically a room like built within a room. So you go up these like makeshift stairs. They're not makeshift. They look makeshift. Yeah, they're makeshift stairs. Let's just say they're makeshift.
Yeah, they are.
So you're in the control room. Let's say you just want to change a mic, or you're going to quickly do another take. You just literally fly down this slide. But we started like doing it. We started going full pelt down the slide. Like it was getting ridiculous.
It's actually in a recording of a tune. What is it again?
Well, we wanted to.
I think it's
in the
Sonder,
screams.
No, it's not. We at the end of the first session, we wanted to put it at the start of the album and slow it down and stuff. But I don't think we ever did. But yeah, we spent about an hour recording us going down the slide. And that just goes to show how mad we went, to be honest.
Didn't they drive down the motorway? The two guys that own the studio, they like attached it to the back of a van because they picked it up somewhere.
Yeah. It's on the roof.
What was that story again? Yeah,
It's just like,
so it's just them.
for anyone that wants to imagine this slide, just
It's
imagine
canny big.
a canny big park slide, like just a big metal thing, about 20 foot high or something.
Yeah.
20 foot, would you say?
Yeah. I'd say about that.
Yeah, I would
big
say
slide,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
It's a pretty big
It is
slide.
big.
It is big.
It's class.
It's a lot of fun.
When you think back to that recording process, what image or memory kind of comes to mind that best surmises the experience for you?
A cowboy hat.
Yeah. I bought this cowboy hat at Glastonbury, and it's just sort of become a thing that when I record now, I'll just wear it for a laugh.
I wear a Wayne's World hat.
Yeah, but this cowboy hat though, like all the studio photos that like Jack took, it just looks like I'm being like walking around with this cowboy hat thinking I'm class, when really it was
It's
before the
ironic.
big laugh.
Yeah.
But then I had to take the spurs off my boots though, because they were getting on my nerves.
I think of Bloody Mary cocktails as well.
Yeah.
We drank a lot of Bloody Mary cocktails.
Yeah, we definitely had like 3.
Definitely
in like a month.
Yeah, the studio guys, one of them like used to work at a cocktail bar, so he just kept like, feeding us cocktails. Yeah. Do you know what? The both sessions were really fun. I've really like strained my voice on the first one, so I was like trying to hold it together the first time, which to be honest was a lot of the reason why we had, well, to be honest, not why we had to go back the second time, but there was a lot of tracks we did on the first session, like Nothing Lasts Forever and Infinite Pleasure, which I just couldn't do vocals on because I'd like blown my voice out. Because basically when you start tracking the songs, you need to sort of get a guide vocal and stuff down. But when you've been sort of doing that for like, in the pre-production, you've been doing that for like 8 hours, you realise you've been singing for far too long. And then when it actually comes to recording your vocals, like, done it in. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is I enjoyed the second time a lot more.
I think I
was
did
just
as well, to be honest.
able to like
Yeah, me too.
have a lot more fun and actually speak without hurting.
And a drink as well.
Yeah,
That you weren't
I was on my
able to
best
the
behaviour
first
the
time.
first time. The second
was
time, I
Sonder.
just got the cowboy hat on, didn't I?
Are you able to relax a little more too because you've laid the foundations there and some of the hard work is kind of out the way at that point?
Yeah, but I guess with those tracks, yeah, but we definitely had like 9 more tracks to record when we got there, I think.
Yeah,
second
I
time?
think it was 9 actually. At the interlude as well.
I think the other like exciting part about the second album session, sorry, not the second album session, the second session for the album was that we knew that the album was going to come out. The first time we went to do the session, we knew there was an album coming, but it just felt more real the second time.
Yeah.
Like we actually had an album that was coming together and it was going to actually come out. I think the first time we weren't really sure what was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a band that's signed to a major label or anything, you know. So you go into it with high hopes of like the first album session. You know, we didn't have a budget for an album. We went in, we recorded and hoped that we could shop around and get a budget for an album, you know. So obviously there was a lot of nerves that first time, I guess. Whereas the second time we did have a budget for the album, so we were just like, we could relax. Well, for me personally, anyways.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Definitely. Yeah.
So we've done the Pale White has literally just been us 3 lads for a few years just blagging it, with no real plan, you know, just like, and then
Little northern hobbits,
yeah.
literally.
So yeah, it was definitely, you know, it was a nice feeling going in the second time, being like, this album's going to come out. It's actually going to happen.